Let's check in now with former acting attorney general and Newsmax analyst Matthew Whitaker. Matthew, great to have you back with us. I'm guessing you're in Iowa based on the flag and also your very folksy attire today, the flannel shirt. I like it, Matthew.
Yeah, I started the weekend early, a couple days in advance. I love my home state of Iowa, as you know, John. And it's good to be with you. You know, this jury you mentioned, remember, you start with a jury pool. So imagine how bad that D.C. jury pool was to get 3 Clinton donors, an AOC donor, and somebody that's on one of your kids' teams. I mean, it's extraordinary how difficult this prosecution assessment was going to be, especially as the judge continued to rule against the admissibility of evidence to show the grander scheme. But, you know, what did we learn? We learned a lot, even though the not guilty verdict came out. We learned that Hillary Clinton, you know, is the one that ordered and approved the release of this information to the media. We also, I think, learned the depths to which Hillary Clinton would create a lie, an obfuscation to cover up her own problems with her email server. So, you know, I think this Danchenko trial is going to add more. And remember, Durham's charge is to get to the bottom of the origins of the Russian collusion fable. And that's exactly what he's doing. And, you know, sort of these criminal prosecutions are a bonus, even if not successful ultimately, you know, because of the systemic challenges that Republicans face in D.C. Circuit Court. But, you know, overall, I think, you know, this is going to be undeterred, and John Durham's going to continue to advance on his charge.
Now, the Washington Examiner had an article out today that said this Danchenko trial could be John Durham's redemption. Number of factors for that, much, you know, maybe more difficult on the defense here to prove that he didn't lie to the FBI. What do you think? Is there an opportunity for redemption here for John Durham?
I think there is, because remember, there's 5 counts of 1001, which is lying to the FBI and federal law enforcement. And, you know, this is where they said, did you tell, you know, the writer of the dossier, Christopher Steele, this information, and was it true? And, you know, and he, in each case, it sounds like he lied. But remember, in the Sussman case, we also had the FBI lying to itself. I mean, this is the crazy thing.
I'm laughing because it's, you know, sad and ironic, Matthew, not because it's funny. You know, that's just the reaction you have to have. And, you know, one of the other things to come out of the Sussman trial is that we did learn that they are really working on this inside the FBI. At least they're telling us so in the sworn testimony that we heard. Yeah,
and this is the hardest thing to convince people. You know, I've spent over 7.5 years inside of the Department of Justice, worked closely with FBI agents all over the country, you know, especially when I was U.S. attorney. And I know that the rank and file people at the FBI are as sick and disgusted with this chapter as most of us are. The challenge is making sure we have good leaders at the top of the FBI that don't put their thumb on the scale like Jim Comey and Andy McCabe and others did as it related to this, you know, Clinton 2016, you know, dirty trick. And so I actually think that the FBI can come back, but it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of demonstrating that they get it. And not only do they get it, but that they are willing to reform themselves and make sure that politics and partisan advantage never affects their investigations again.
Okay. And speaking of Jim Comey, Matt, here on Newsmax, former acting director of national intelligence Rick Grinnell telling us that he has seen evidence and he wants Durham's investigation to go all the way up the food chain. Let's listen to what he told our Greg Kelly just last night.
I'm eager to get to Comey and to the others at the FBI who knew absolutely that they were pushing a phony hoax. So I'm not going to stop until we prosecute Jim Comey. I think he is guilty. I've seen the evidence. He needs to be prosecuted.
There you have Grinnell on the record. And of course, who could forget that awkward moment, Trump and Comey exchange. You know, he's 6'8", but very awkward moment here that we're showing again. And perhaps we know why. So we just heard from Ambassador Grinnell. Matt, you know, you talk about reform at the FBI. When do you think we could see a possible prosecution all the way up to the top, including would they go after Hillary Clinton?
Well, I know that John Durham is going to maintain his discipline and follow regular order and make sure that he has the evidence necessary for any prosecution. I know that both Rick Grinnell, who's a friend of mine, and John Ratcliffe, who were both DNI heads, have said that the evidence they saw and that they have given to Durham would suggest that there are prosecutable cases in addition to what we've already seen Durham charge. And so, I don't have that visibility. I left the administration after Bill Barr was appointed Attorney General. And so I, like most Americans, I listen very carefully what Rick and John and others say about the evidence that they had in the intelligence community that showed that the very top of the FBI had been corrupted.
Well, I want to talk to you about this kind of, it seems like there's a concerted effort now from the left-leaning media and even some of these Rhino publications to go after John Durham now. New York Magazine says John Durham tried to prove Trump's Russiagate theory. Instead, he debunked it. I don't know if that's true or not. Also, you have another one there from another liberal publication, A Time for Merrick Garland to Fire John Durham. And then the Bulwark talking about the humiliation of John Durham. I don't know if any of those headlines really match up to what we saw play out in the Sussman trial, Matt.
Yeah, it's all nonsense. I mean, this is the marginal mainstream media trying to, get their couple minutes in the, kind of with a hot take. Here's what I know is that, John Durham's charge and the Department of Justice writ large is to do justice. It's not to win cases. It's to bring these types of cases, even if they're going to be difficult to prove, because at the end of the day, the American people, the jury, it's in their hands. Now, the funny thing is, this jury foreman for the Sussman trial came out and said that, she didn't think this is the type of case that should be brought to juries, that the FBI shouldn't have prosecuted.
Yeah, Matt, I want to try that next time. Maybe tell that to someone who is being questioned by the FBI. See how that goes over. Tell the FBI, oh, no, lying to the FBI is not a big deal. I mean, the one thing an FBI agent will tell you is never lie to an FBI agent, because they only get more mad and the case only gets high. I mean, this is mind-boggling that someone would say this, especially the jury foreperson.
Yeah. And it's so true. And we saw, Sussman play out in this means and manner, which it got to the truth, which is Sussman didn't tell the truth. But at the same time, across the river in Virginia, you had the Johnny Depp trial where it was all about the truth. And, and he was able to prove that he had been defamed. And so, I think the American people are a little bit scratching their heads trying to say, do we have a two-tiered system of justice where the left always escapes prosecution and the right seems to get dragged through the mud, whether it's General Flynn, Roger Stone, or others that got caught up in some.
Name any one of the January 6th nonviolent offenders who sat in that prison or the jail in Washington, D.C. and didn't get the due process that most people get.
And, of course, the Depp trial is televised for everyone to see, but yet we have no cameras in Sussman. Very quick deliberations. Just real quickly, just about 30 seconds. When you heard Sussman in his own words say he was falsely accused yesterday and he came out of court, what did you make of that? How did that sit with you, his statements?
I felt that was just his spin because, listen, he went up to the Capitol Hill in her sworn testimony and said that he did represent a client. He sent a text message to say he didn't represent a client. And then their trial testimony tried to suggest that, well, everybody knew that he represented a client. He had it written on his forehead, literally, figuratively. So, I mean, there was clearly a false statement. And the fact that the jury wasn't willing to convict him doesn't mean that this case wasn't successful.
Yeah. John Cooper, again, an Obama-appointed judge. And, a lot of us were just shocked by that ruling that the text message, the kind of caught you red-handed text message was not allowed to be admitted as evidence. Just did seem like the Durham prosecution team had one hand tied behind their backs the entire time. Matt Whitaker, great to see you. Thanks for your insight.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Good to see you both.